Hey guys, thanks for stopping by the channel. If you get a moment, please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Now, I don't know about you, but a couple weeks ago, I was taken back a little bit. KTM released some new models, the 890 Adventure R and the 890 Adventure R Rally. They have since also released the 890 standard version, the 890 Adventure. So 3 new models, strikingly similar to the 790s, if you will. And the question for me is, do I need the KTM 890 Adventure R, seeing as how I've been a 790 Adventure R, a happy 790 owner, for about a year and a half? Now the guys at KTM tell me I do need a KTM 890 Adventure R. In fact, there are a lot of upgrades, so let's walk through that a little bit. So I think I'll start by addressing the Rally version of the bike, which is notably more expensive, but does include some pretty serious upgrades over your standard R version, like the Akrapovic exhaust, wider foot pegs, different seat, clear windscreen, better suspension. All that stuff's great, but it comes at a cost, and reportedly the bike is going to retail for about $20K. So for an adventure bike, for me, I think that's a little bit too expensive. I mean, you could buy 2 Teneres for that. Granted, in my opinion, they wouldn't be as good as an adventure bike, but I think 20K is a little bit steep for me. Even 13.5 on my 790 Adventure R, that was kind of pushing the envelope, and it looks like the 890 Adventure R is going to retail for just a little bit more than the 790s, but that's expected. More displacement, some upgrades, you would expect that. Alright, so let's hone in a little bit on the R model, because for me, that's really where the apples to apples comparison is, if you will, because I've got the 790 Adventure R, this is the 890 Adventure R, and you know, what are the upgrades, what's available, what would entice me to kind of step up to this new model? Now, according to KTM, we've got a new engine here with a larger bore and a larger stroke. This results in more compression and 90 cc's more displacement, so overall you get a little more oomph, which I like. Also, they noted 20% more rotating mass inside the engine, which I suspect would help you ride at lower speeds and in lower gears and in more technical sections, because again, you just have more mass in there. It's like adding a flywheel weight, for instance. And if you're like me and you like to pull high gears, lug the crap out of the bike, slip the clutch, you would probably appreciate a little bit more mass, as long as it didn't hinder the handling. So that remains to be seen, but I would check that off as a notable upgrade. And the other thing they mentioned was a stronger clutch with new friction plates. Now, I know a lot of people have had issues with oil flow within the clutch. I don't know if that's been addressed on the 890, but always happy to hear about stronger clutches, because to be honest, I use mine a lot. KTM mentioned some other upgrades that I'll outline here, most notably traction control improvements, ABS improvements, new suspension settings for off-road. Now, I don't know if that's different oil levels, different ride height, different sag, different rake, trail, whatever, different valving in the suspension. I'm not sure what that means. But again, new suspension settings for off-road riding, which is why we buy these things. Weight reduction efforts were made, most notably in the steering stem, though this bike is going to weigh a few pounds more than your 790. New handlebar switch with cruise control, which I'll give that a thumbs up, that's nice. Rework brakes, which is something I would hope for sure. I always thought the rear brake was kind of weak, especially for trail riding. Now, we can talk about the recall with the rear brake line and all that. That was a bit of a problem. But I always thought the rear was a little bit weak. New fuel line, and lastly, the hubs are now anodized as opposed to powder coated. If that moves the needle for you, right on. I know that a lot of guys are just swapping out the stock rims right away, the guys that ride off-road a lot, and getting narrower rims, which have a tendency to be quite a bit stronger. So there's the list of claimed upgrades, if you will. When we measure that against the 790, I don't know if you call them upgrades or minor tweaks or performance improvements or what, but that's what KTM is boasting at this time. So back to my initial question, is it really worth upgrading to the 890 Adventure R, being that I'm a 790 Adventure R owner? Yeah, I don't know if it's that cut and dry. I'll say this, I've been really happy with my 790. I've had it for about a year and a half, and the type of riding that I do is predominantly backcountry discovery route type riding, and I ride trails on it occasionally, but I've really bought it to be my go-to adventure bike. I'd say 90% dirt, 10% pavement, and then obviously guiding tours for Bend motorcycle adventures. That's what I do, and I think the 790 really does it well. However, I've never been the kind of rider who needed a lot of convincing to go out there and chase down the latest models or the latest and greatest bikes. And truth be told, I haven't put a lot of money into my 790 Adventure R. The reality is it's pretty stock, and I don't think I'd get killed on the resale, so I can see a scenario where I sell that bike and quote unquote upgrade to the 890. However, I do need to consider the time of year it is. This bike releases in November. Who knows when I could get my hands on it? And traditionally, November through March aren't great months for adventure riding in Oregon. It's just too cold, snow, rain, whatever. It's not great riding conditions. So unless we're guiding tours in the southwest portion of the USA, reality is I won't get to ride it much until the spring thaw. So I think for me, the best course of action is to let the bike release, let some people get it in their hands, and hear some honest, kind of constructive reviews, and then make the decision from there. Because again, I'm super happy with my 790, but I think I'd be stoked to get my hands on an 890 also. Viewers, thanks again for tuning into this video, and I'd love to hear what you think. What adventure bike do you own, and are you interested in any of these 890 models? Please drop a comment below, and don't forget about our website, benmotorcycleadventures.com, adventure motorcycle training, and adventure motorcycle tours. We've got 10 tours on backcountry discovery routes scheduled for 2021. I'd love to see you out there. Again, benmotorcycleadventures.com and Ben Motorcycle Adventures on both Facebook and Instagram. We'll catch you next week.